Today I'm introducing a post-apocalyptic zombie movie from 2020 called The Clearing. Tom is an ordinary worker, and his busy job has started to strain the relationship between him and his daughter, Mira. One day, Mira is excitedly talking to her mother about her experience with the Girl Scouts, but Tom can't stand listening to it. Tom doesn't believe it's real. He thinks a good Girl Scout should be learning life skills and Morse code, not picking flowers or baking cakes. This frustrates Mira, who wants her father's attention, praise, and encouragement. But all she hears from him is denial, criticism, and discouragement. This leads to an increasingly strained relationship between father and daughter. After cooling down, Tom goes to his daughter's room and looks at his wife apologetically. As a father, Tom doesn't know how to communicate with his daughter. He assumes that whatever he says, Mira won't like it. On top of that, rebellious children are often very sensitive. His wife hopes that Tom can spend more time with Mira. Tom suggests taking Mira to the movies over the weekend, but his wife feels that's not real quality time. She thinks camping would be a much better way to bond. Tom vaguely says that he doesn't have time for a camping trip this weekend. Seeing his evasiveness, his wife wants to know what could possibly be more important than spending time with their daughter. Eventually, Tom admits the truth. He has plans for a wild night out with his friends this weekend. This makes his wife furious. Tom, it seems, values his own time more than spending it with his daughter, not realizing that the time their child has left in the house is limited. When she grows up, she'll have her own life, career, and family. At that point, even if parents want to spend time with their children, it'll be up to the children whether they have time for it. In the end, Tom reluctantly agrees, but little did he know, Mira overheard the entire conversation. The next morning, father and daughter set off on their day alone together. Along the way, Tom tries to talk to Mira, but she's just looking at her phone and doesn't respond to him. To help mend their relationship, Tom decides that for the day, neither of them should use their phones. That way, they can enjoy nature's beauty. Ignoring Mira's objections, Tom forces her to go on a hike with him. Tom walks ahead while Mira falls further and further behind. Exhausted, Mira wants to take a break, but Tom doesn't care. He believes that as long as he's not tired, no one else should be either. Tom says, "I know we've only been walking for an hour." "You're not tired. I'm teaching you how to be a Girl Scout." Mira replies, "I'm already a Girl Scout. I just want to go home." Tom says, "We can't go back." Mira says, "I don't want to spend this stupid time with you." Tom asks, "Why?" Mira answers, "Because I don't like you." At first, Mira didn't want to say the truth, but Tom's actions pushed her to her breaking point. So, she finally revealed what she had overheard last night. At that moment, Tom felt utterly ashamed, especially when he heard his daughter call him a liar. Tom regrets it deeply. He wants to make things right with his daughter. He calls out to Mira, and for the first time, she sees her father unsure of what to do. She doesn't want to make things harder for him. Eventually, they come to an agreement. If they don't enjoy the day together, they will leave first thing in the morning. During the rest of the trip, Mira listens patiently as Tom explains all the things boys learn at summer camp. Tom is happy to see his daughter asking questions, but what he doesn't know is that Mira isn't uninterested in these things. She just wants her father to teach her. She hasn't experienced this feeling in a long time, and that afternoon she has a great time, even opening up emotionally. Tom says to Mira, "I'm sorry, I'm not a boy. I know you really want a boy. I can try to act like a boy if you want me to." Tom asks, "Why would you say that?" Mira replies, "So you can spend more time with me." At that moment, Tom is speechless. He doesn't know how to respond to his daughter. Just then, a woman from a nearby campsite comes over and invites them to join her for some food. The awkward atmosphere is instantly broken. This time, Tom doesn't immediately agree, but first asks Mira for her opinion. They end up enjoying a lovely evening with the other families in the area. Back at the campsite, Tom gives Mira the Morse code he had written for her. Leaving the bright lights of the city behind, the night sky becomes even more stunning. Father and daughter lie on top of the car, and Tom points out the North Star, teaching her how to navigate in the wild. Later that night, dark clouds cover the sky, and rain falls like tears across the earth. The next morning, Tom wakes up and realizes Mira is gone. He rushes out of the car to search, but there's no sign of her. Then, a woman's desperate cry for help echoes from nearby. Tom immediately rushed over to help, but when he saw the person's face, he froze in place. These people could no longer be called humans. Their faces were covered in white, warty growths, and the blood spraying from their wounds was teeming with parasites. Just as Tom stood there, uncertain of what to do, Mira appeared. In the next moment, Mira's voice drew all the infected toward them. At that instant, Tom had only one thought. No matter what, he had to protect his daughter. As he blocked the infected, Tom kept shouting, "Run! Run!" Once the infected lost focus, they turned toward Tom. In the end, he was forced to retreat back into the RV. Though Tom was momentarily safe, he had been completely surrounded and lost the chance to look for Mira. He pulled out his weapon and the only 6 bullets he had left. When he opened the RV door, he shot the closest infected, but the sound of the gun echoed through the empty mountains, drawing more of the infected toward him. Tom fought desperately to move forward, but by the time his bullets ran out, he hadn't even made it 5 meters. The infected kept multiplying, and Tom was forced to retreat back to the RV once again. These infected were terrifying, and Tom knew he couldn't handle them alone, let alone Mira. Determined to find his daughter, Tom wrapped his arms and legs in blankets and climbed up to the roof of the RV. After setting up a foldable ladder, Tom jumped onto the pickup truck ahead. After a perilous journey, Tom finally managed to get inside the truck, but when it mattered most, the truck wouldn't start. Trapped inside the truck, Tom grabbed his signal flare and the 3 remaining bullets. Once everything was ready, he made his way back the way he came. After a heart-stopping fight, Tom made it safely back to the RV. He took out the map and checked their coordinates, but just as he was about to use the radio to call for help, a broadcast from the National Guard came through. The virus had spread. Countless cities were under quarantine, and the disaster had fully erupted. In that moment, Tom knew he could only rely on himself. He observed the surrounding area from the roof of the RV. The infected were wandering through the forest. Then, Tom saw Mira. At that moment, Tom felt both excited and nervous, but he dared not make a sound. Tom looked back at the sun. After confirming the angle, he took out his flashlight. Mira immediately understood, and she hurriedly retrieved the Morse code Tom had given her. Father and daughter communicated in this way. Mira, alone outside, was terrified. She wanted to return to her father. Watching his daughter get closer, Tom wanted to stop her, but it was already too late. The infected had spotted the small figure of Mira. Without hesitation, Tom grabbed a baseball bat and jumped down from the roof of the truck. Once again, Tom narrowly escaped, but by the time he looked up, Mira's figure had vanished. That night, the sky was about to unleash another downpour. Tom stared quietly into the darkness, praying his daughter was safe, but he had no idea that Mira had already been surrounded by a group of infected. 2 days later, Tom's body was growing weaker, and all that remained in his eyes was a sense of hopelessness. Just then, a group of infected charged at him, and something caught Tom's attention. A jacket. But when he saw it clearly, despair overwhelmed him. It was Mira's jacket. Guilt and self-blame overwhelmed Tom's nerves. He went back inside the RV and retrieved his last bullet. Mira's smile kept replaying in his mind. Tom decided he would end it all and join his daughter in the next world. But in the end, he abandoned that thought. Soon after, the roar of an engine echoed through the canyon, and a car crashed into a tree nearby. A man in a police uniform jumped out of the car, but he was quickly surrounded by the infected. In a moment of desperation, Tom appeared. After saving the man, the two of them retreated back into the RV. From the man's words, Tom learned what was happening outside. Cities had fallen, and human civilization had been put on pause. The world was now consumed by violence. With the appearance of the officer, Tom had an idea. He had to go out and find his daughter, no matter the cost. He had to see her with his own eyes, whether he lived or died. The officer readily agreed, but upon seeing the infected surrounding them, he hesitated. This infuriated Tom. Facing the hysterical officer, Tom said nothing. He simply stared at the man, coldly. In that moment, the officer reverted to his earlier smooth-talking self. As the officer's back turned, Tom's mind began to race with other thoughts. That night, while the officer slept, Tom quietly retrieved the man's ID. Just as Tom suspected, the man was an imposter. At that moment, the man woke up, and a fierce struggle ensued. While Tom managed to injure the man, he was knocked unconscious by a powerful kick. When Tom woke up again, he found himself on the roof of the RV. The man had undone Tom's handcuffs, planning to throw him off the roof and use him as bait to escape. But little did the man know, Tom had already woken up and was waiting for the perfect moment. The instant Tom was free, the two men engaged in another life or death struggle. Just as Tom was about to be overpowered, images of his daughter began flashing in his mind. The next moment, the man fell off the roof and became a meal for the infected. Exhausted, Tom curled up in a corner. At that moment, a figure leaped down from the roof. Seeing that familiar silhouette, Tom's heart raced with hope. But when the figure turned around, Tom's heart sank in despair. Fortunately, it was all just a dream. Tom returned to the roof and looked down at the battery below. As he pondered how to get it, he noticed a pillar of smoke rising from the mountains in the distance. Tom's first thought was of Mira. He rushed back into the RV, grabbed his tools, and began working on the underside of the vehicle. As night fell once again, Tom quietly made his way to the location of the battery. With the flare shot into the sky, all the infected in the area charged toward the light. Seizing the opportunity, Tom grabbed the battery and returned to the RV. There, he found the Boy Scout badge that Mira cherished so much. Just as he was about to leave, an infected person lunged at him from behind. Somehow, the infected had all returned. Although Tom managed to end the creature's life, with his last bullet, more infected rushed in. Tom immediately climbed to the roof and jumped onto the nearby pickup truck, but an infected followed right behind him. Seeing himself about to be surrounded, Tom discarded his jacket and dove back into the vehicle. He connected the car's wires to the battery. Just as he reached for the keys, he realized they were in the pocket of his discarded jacket. Fortunately, Tom knew how to fix cars. He grabbed a tool and forced it into the keyhole. In the next moment, the engine roared to life. With the tires screeching, the pickup truck lurched forward, but it didn't go far before the driver's side window shattered. With the pitch-black sky and the constant harassment from the infected, the truck slammed into a large tree at the side of the road. Nowhere to run, Tom was forced to make a dash back to the RV. The infected swarmed around him like ravenous ghouls from hell. This time, there was no escape. In his moment of despair, Tom spotted a gas can not far off. He immediately pulled out his flare gun. The next instant, a red light lit up the night sky, and the explosion echoed through to Mia. Every single infected in the area perished. Protected by the infected's destruction, Tom was miraculously alive. He dragged his exhausted body toward the mountain where the smoke had risen. At dawn, he finally reached his destination. There, he found Mira. Though she was weak from hunger, at least she was still alive. But the disaster had spread across the globe. Would they be able to survive in this dark new world?